He has that roundabout traffic.
Have you checked on it lately? It's
Yeah.
actually progressing.
Yeah, I check on it daily.
Every other day.
Morning.
I was surprised they made such progress so far.
We're gonna, several people have meetings.
That's for fun.
True.
We're good, sir.
I'd like to call the Granville Exempted Village School District Board of Education meeting to order. Would you please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, and I'd like to welcome everyone to today's meeting. Would you please take the roll?
Mr. Wolf,
Here.
Ms. Shaw is absent, Ms. Gates. Here. Mr. Cronk.
Here.
Mr. Miller.
Here.
Look for a motion to approve the agenda.
Second?
Please take the roll.
Ms. Deeds.
Aye.
Mr. Cronk.
Aye.
Mr. Miller.
Aye.
Mr. Wolf.
Aye.
Okay. Staff report.
Okay, so we have the June financial report, which also is going to include a brief year-end review because this is the end of the fiscal year. So our ending cash balance for fiscal year '24 is about $800,000 above where we were last June. That's primarily due to the carryover cash balance that we've been reporting on every month. So that will carry us forward into next fiscal year. Revenue for the month of June, not a lot to talk about here. We just had state revenue and all other revenue, which is largely interest this time of year. So looking at year-to-date revenue, which we've talked about, but just as a reminder, local tax revenue, which includes the income tax and property tax, is down compared to last year, and that was the income tax that we saw the decrease in this year. State revenue, pretty close to where we were last year, which is what we expected with being on the guarantee. There were some components of that specifically related to transportation that we knew would increase this year, so that's what we're seeing in state. And then all other revenue. This is a little bit deceiving just looking at the numbers on the left because of the return of advance payments, but all other revenue is actually up related to interest. So if we do an apples-to-apples comparison on the right, rather than revenue being down, revenue is actually up over $600,000 over previous year. On the expenditure side, for the month of June, again, we're seeing salary and benefits higher than last year, which we have seen every month this year due to the standard base and step increases. Purchase service is continuing to be higher in the special education area. And then all other expenses, which in June typically includes year-end purchases for supplies, getting ready for next year, slightly down over prior year. Year-to-date expenditures then, same thing for salary and benefits, purchase service. We've talked about this in the scheme of the forecast as well. So all very much in alignment with that, which I'll show on the next slide. But again, in purchase service, we also have those additional timing issues that we saw throughout the course of the year with doubling up on the ABM payment last July as well as, so we basically had 13 payments for custodial services, 13 electric payments during the 12-month period. And then, of course, all other expenses includes the transfers to the capital projects fund, which is what you're seeing then on the right, the $4 million includes that transfer. So if we account for, or exclude the transfer rather, expenditures are up over prior year $2 million compared to the $4 million. So how does this compare to the forecast? Is this where we expect it to be? For total revenue, our actual ended up being higher, so that's good on the revenue side, over 200,000. And then on the expenditure side, expenditures were less, so both of those contribute to a higher cash balance. For revenue, it was a couple of items that come in at the end of the year. So first is the return of advance for the athletic complex. We had accounted for some of that coming in next fiscal year, not knowing that all of that was going to be repaid this year, so that was a positive, but it's really just a timing between years. And then the threshold costs, so this was previously catastrophic costs. This is related to special education students. We can request essentially reimbursement for a portion of those expenses over a certain threshold. And that reimbursement amount, dollar amount, was higher than previous years. That's a little bit confusing because yes, the revenue's higher, but also that just means that our expenses were higher. We didn't get more of a reimbursement, we just had more expenses to submit for. Then on the expenditure side, purchase service and supplies are always kind of hard to forecast in the last couple of months of the year. I base it a lot on trend, but also the amount of budget that we have remaining. And so sometimes those budget amounts go unspent or are carried into the next fiscal year with carryover encumbrances. So that was slightly lower than what we had forecasted, but not significantly. So the ending cash balance then is $460,000 above where we had forecasted. And I previously sent in the board report a different days of cash because I hadn't accounted for the transfers and advances yet. So actually, once we exclude that, we have 182 days of cash on hand. And again, as a reminder, our policy is 160 days as the maximum. But we've talked about this with the forecast, but just want to reiterate this since this is the end of the fiscal year, that our formal recommendation is to maintain our current revenue due to the expected growth and the trends that we're seeing during the forecasting period. COVID-related funds, we are so close. We just have a couple more timesheets left to pay, so that should be all wrapped up in July, and no one's more excited than me. Capital projects, we had another payment on the middle school and high school HVAC projects. I would anticipate that be wrapped up soon as well. But again, that is the benefit of having this designated fund because that project now has carried over fiscal years. So this creates an easier way for us to track and report on those projects. The GHS digester was paid and I think it's being delivered like today or tomorrow maybe. And then the dimmer rack is ongoing, so no payments have been made on that yet. Then we have our cash reconciliation, and that is it for the monthly financial, unless there's any questions. Okay, thank you.
We're at the point of the meeting of the Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business. Not to be considered public community meeting. There's a time for public participation during the meeting as indicated in the agenda. If anyone would like to come forward for public comment, please do so. Okay, thank you.
By the way, our guest is Michelle Bossy, who is on the agenda for being a literacy support person at the intermediate school to replace Ms. McCreary. So that's who's in the room. Thank you. Well, and then, of course, the other two that are always here. So, okay, action agenda. Action item 8.01 is the emergency closure plan. As you know, the state gives us the ability to work with the association to develop a plan for emergency closures. Our current plan says that we will have 3 traditional snow days or closure days, and then after that we have the opportunity to do virtual learning through Schoology and other learning management tools that we have in place. So We approved that last year, and it's the same plan for this year.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Take the roll, please.
Ms. Deeds?
Aye.
Mr. Cron?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mr. Wolf?
Aye.
8.02, the approval of the CCIP 1 plan.
So moved.
Second.
And this is the report that Gwen gave on federal funds that support the continuous improvement plan.
Take the roll, please.
Mr. Cron?
Aye.
Ms. Deeds?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mr. Wolf?
Aye.
Okay. Item 8.03 are the student handbooks for the 24-25 school year.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so a lot of the changes are just the general changes, but we made changes through, we always tweak related to PBIS, the MTSS process, and at the high school, the College Credit Plus, some of the conduct language. So general tweaking, nothing massive to report back to as far as significant changes, but just tweaking the policies that align with our practices.
Take the roll, please.
Ms. Deeds?
Aye.
Mr. Cron?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mr. Wolf?
Aye.
Okay, 8.04 are the athletic handbooks for the 24-25 school year. So moved.
Second.
Very similar statement, just a couple of things that we tweaked related to practical issues. So pretty much the same.
Take the roll, please.
Mr. Cron?
Aye.
Ms. Deeds?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mr. Wolf?
Aye.
8.05 is the English Language Learner Handbook for 24-25.
So moved.
Second.
Same.
Take the roll, please.
Yeah.
Ms. Deeds? Aye. Mr. Cron?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mr. Wolf?
Aye.
Okay, 8.06 is the Substitute Employee Handbook.
So moved.
Second.
This is actually the first time you've board approved this document. Typically, it's an administrative guidance document, but we thought it would be appropriate for the board to approve this handbook because we have new stuff coming in all the time, and I think it's a best practice to have that board approved.
How extensive is it, and how do we communicate it? Because sometimes subs are pretty temporary, they just come in sort of at the last minute. Is this part of a training process, or how is this disseminated?
Mr. Petrie meets with every sub and communicates the expectations of the district. This is just it's probably a 9-page document, just to put in writing some of the things that he says during those meetings, just to formalize that for them.
Great,
And they do sign off on it.
thank you.
Take the roll, please.
Ms. Deeds?
Aye.
Mr. Cron?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mr. Wolf?
Aye.
Thank you. 8.07 is the approval of the contract with Krieger Ford.
So moved.
Second.
And this is to purchase a food service van. So typically we've used actually a student travel van for community or moving food from the high school to the intermediate school and the high school or the elementary. And so we are purchasing a truck dedicated for that purpose so that we don't have the issues that we've had in the past. So, any questions? And we're using it with dedicated funds from the food service account.
Our contract employees for the cafeterias, the drivers effectively just move right?
Yes.
And this will be a more practical vehicle than a
100%, yes.
student van.
Yeah.
And it frees up the van for
For
student
right.
transport,
Right.
which we have a need for as well, so it's mutually beneficial.
Take the roll, please.
Mr. Cron?
Aye.
Ms. Deeds?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mr. Wolf?
Aye.
Thank you. 8.08 is the approval of the contract with the Ohio School Plan.
So
Second.
This is our general liability, property, fleet, cyber coverage for the year. We typically bid that out and go through a process and select vendors. Ohio School Plan is, widely used by many school districts in the state of Ohio, and they're used to dealing with schools.
What's the approximate annual cost of that?
I think it's like 160,000. It's gone up drastically over the last 5 years. Well, as has everything, right?
Yeah.
But Ohio school plan was like 30% lower than the 3 other quotes that we received, so.
What are the most significant cases or liabilities for other school districts that have been around Ohio? I mean, what are these used for?
Well, I mean,
So
we
build, so property, so tornado
tornadoes,
damage.
yeah.
So as the cost of building replacement goes up, as the cost of vehicle replacement goes up, the
Yeah.
cost of coverage goes up as well.
So it's primarily property damage?
And vehicle,
fleet.
and vehicle, yeah.
We tend to have more of those.
That's where we have most of them.
If you haven't noticed,
Yeah.
roads in Granville are a little tight.
Yeah.
Those little yellow buses.
Yeah.
What does the cyber portion cover?
So that would be, well, a multitude of things. But for example, some of these issues that we've talked about with electronic payments, so it would provide some protection or some reimbursement based on some of those situations, ransom situations, like data recovery, if your data gets taken, like that kind of situation.
Great, thank you.
Take the roll, please.
Mr. Crom?
Aye.
Ms. Deeds?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mr. Wolf?
Aye.
Okay, that moves us into the consent agenda. So item 9.01, A through, I think, B12.
So moved.
Okay. So this is the reason why we have this morning meeting, is to do last minute hiring and button up some of the things for the rest of the year. Now, just a reminder, employees have until July 10th to notify us of a departure to another school district without penalty of losing a license. So, we still have a couple of days, but at this point, Mr. Petrie and his office have been working very hard to get us fully staffed for the 24-25 school year, and we're in a very good position. So just wanted to make that comment. You'll see that we have an administrative contract for Jessica Wills, the Assistant Athletic Director, coming to us from Hamilton, where she was an assistant principal for a couple of years. So we have a really talented person coming into that role, which is excellent. We have a couple of one teacher, I mentioned Michelle Bossy in the audience, who is our instructional coach at the intermediate school. We have a couple of bus drivers on the list, yay. Which is always something that we're looking for. A couple of items related to extended time, the resignation of Molly McCurry in that instructional position, Ross Hartley, boys cross country, and we have a cross country coach replacement on the agenda, and then a couple of other stipends that we pay for services for the 24-25 school year. Any questions?
Take the roll, please.
Ms. Deeds?
Aye.
Mr. Crom?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mr. Wolf?
Aye.
Item 10.01 is approval of the June 2024 financial report.
So moved.
Second.
Any other questions or comments?
Take the roll, please.
Mr. Crom?
Aye.
Ms. Deeds?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mr. Wolf?
Aye.
Item 10.02 is approval of the resolution to establish the unclaimed funds account.
So moved.
Second.
So this is a process that we are going to be doing annually, where we move unclaimed funds from the food service account into this designated account. So unclaimed funds are essentially lunch balances for students who have either transferred, withdrawn from the district, or have graduated. So the first step here is to approve the establishment of the account. The next item is the actual transfer. And this is essentially to get us caught up with all of the inactive students that we have currently, going forward annually, this amount will be much lower.
Does the 20,580.95 reflect as of end of school year this year?
As of June 30th, yes. So, and students or parents can still request those refunds to be made. We keep the funds in the unclaimed funds account for 5 years once they're there. Then after 5 years, we can use it for any purpose. So after 5 years, then an annual addition to this will be then a transfer from unclaimed funds to general funds so that we can use it for any purpose.
And have we done this before?
No, so this and the next item related to the bad debt. This is all related to the food service procurement review that we had recently. They're all things that should have been done. They are minor, and it's actually interesting because, as you can see, the unclaimed funds actually exceeds the bad debt. So in my mind, those two just cancel each other out, but we have to go through this whole formal process.
So we recently kind of went through this with Kate, who graduated. It was quite a difficult process to figure out how to get the funds, right? Like there was money in her lunch money, and she tried to call the place, and they said, oh, we can't do it for you. You have to call the district office, and so we had to call here. And so it seems like if we've got $20,000 of leftover lunch money, we're not doing a very good job of figuring out how to get that credited back to the parent who might have paid it.
The update with Pay School Central allows you to transfer from one student account to the other if you meet that deadline, right? So, for instance, I have a child who always buys lunch and one who doesn't. So that balance I just simply transferred over to the other student. So it does have that availability with the software.
I think the high school also sends out a communication that simply says contact the employee to request a refund, because we get
Yes.
a slew of those requests and issue those around the same time each year, so.
So maybe we
it's-
just missed communication.
Yeah, I mean, it's as simple
It
as
was,
contacting Kim or I, and we issue the refund in the next check run, and,
Well, it's good to know you're holding it open for 5
yeah,
years.
yes.
Right,
So it's not like the funds are lost, right?
Thank you.
I
And
can't collect it all.
And these are also like, you have to
You
think,
have money in there still, it's 5 years.
these are like all inactive students too. So like, these are small balances. We're not talking about hundreds of dollars for individual students. Like, this is $5 that this student didn't get refunded, $10 here. They're all relatively small
And as you
balances.
So it's 20,000 overall, so, yeah.
But you're catching up, right?
Right,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
So annually, this is not going to
Right,
be.
right.
Okay,
Much
thanks
more.
for taking care of
When you
this.
say
Doing it the right way.
inactive students,
So anybody who is no longer currently enrolled, so they've graduated or they've withdrawn.
thank you.
Yep,
Thanks for doing it right.
yep.
Take the roll, please.
Ms. Deeds?
Aye.
Mr. Crum?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mr. Wolf?
Aye.
Item 10.03 is the approval of the transfer from the food service fund to unclaimed funds.
So moved.
Second.
Any additional questions on
I'll be glad.
Take the
that?
roll,
Ms.
please.
Deeds?
Aye.
Mr. Crum?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mr. Wolf?
Aye.
Item 10.04 is approval of the transfer from the general fund to the food service fund to cover bad debt balances.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, and then this is the second piece of this annual process. And so this is bad debt, and that's the phrase that,
Sounds awful.
these are federal funds. You have to remember that food service is federal funds, because any component that we get a federal is commingled with the local dollars from lunch accounts. So all of these processes are dictated by the federal regulations. So bad debt, again, is related to students who are inactive. So they have graduated, they have withdrawn. That is when it's considered bad debt. We do have outstanding debt, so to speak, for current students, but that might be a negative balance that occurs at the end of the year, and that parent's going to put reload it come August. So that's not considered bad, because we still intend and have a likelihood of collecting on that while that student's still enrolled.
How many years was the 8,700?
This has not been done either. So this essentially is anything that we have since we've been using Pay Schools, which is at least 10, 12
Yeah,
years.
12
I
years.
mean, quite some time, yeah.
I understand, in my opinion, there's a lot of bad federal debt, so.
Take the roll.
Comment noted.
Ms.
Right.
Deeds?
Aye.
Mr. Cronk?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mr. Wolf?
Aye.
10.05 is approval of the then and now resolutions for Rice Excavating, Ziegler Tire, and Superior.
So moved.
Second.
These are just a few facility-related items in transportation where we did not have the PO open prior to the project occurring. The Rice Excavating was related to the sewer project here. Ziegler Tires, obviously for transportation, and Superior was HVAC related.
Take the roll.
Mr. Cronk?
Aye.
Ms. Deeds?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mr. Wolf?
Aye.
Item 10.06 is approval of the employee dishonesty and faithful performance duty policy.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so please don't ask me why it's called this, but this is a recommendation from the Ohio School Plan. And essentially this is in lieu of the bond. So currently, I have a bond. And what the bond does is if there's a findings for recovery or some other issue where the district is trying to get funds back that were lost, the bond company would pay the district. But then I would be personally responsible for paying back the bond company, even if it's not a situation where it was my fault or a malintent situation. The insurance, moving to an insurance policy, provides the same protection to the district. The district is still going to be made whole in those same situations. It just removes the personal liability for me. And also, in the past, we've been paying for both. So this is just a way for us to save just a little bit. I mean, it's $300 or something like that for the bond, but it's just something that really the law changed on this maybe 6 or 7 years ago, could be longer than that, that allowed for districts to move in this direction. And it just wasn't something that a lot of districts made that change at that time, and then it was kind of put to the side and not really thought of. But since we made this switch to Ohio School Plan and I was talking through things with them, they brought this issue up, and so that's why we're recommending it at this time.
Please take the roll.
Ms. Deeds?
Aye.
Mr. Cronk?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mr. Wolf?
Aye.
Item 10.07 is a resolution to approve return of fund advances.
So moved.
Second.
This is just the return of the advances that we approved at the last meeting for the federal grants that operate on a reimbursement basis.
Take the roll, please.
Ms. Deeds?
Aye.
Mr. Cronk?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mr. Wolf?
Aye.
Motion to adjourn.
Before we do that, I just want to acknowledge the district for all their help and support during the recent Granville Kiwanis 4th of July celebration, and recognition to the football team, which volunteered and was a tremendous help with policing and cleaning up the Midway on Broadway. So every year, the school district is very supportive, and we appreciate it. So just a thank you for that.
Thanks for mentioning that. Thank you. Can I make a motion to adjourn now?
Yes.
Second.
Second.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mr. Cronk?
Aye.
Ms. Deeds?
Aye.
Mr. Wolf?
Aye. We're adjourned.